What is up, guys? It is AJ. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the leaked matchup between Khamzat Chimaev and Jared Cannonier. It's going to be taking place at UFC 294, October 21st in Abu Dhabi. It was actually leaked by one of Chimaev's coaches on social media accidentally. Some people dug into it and found out that the name is Jared Cannonier that Khamzat's going to be facing off against. In this video, I'm obviously going to react to the matchup, talk a little bit about it, and I'll also be giving you guys my early prediction for it. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I'll tell you guys this. I am very disappointed that we're not seeing Khamzat versus Kamaru Usman. I still really like this fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Jared Cannonier, but I really was hoping Khamzat would dial in his weight and become the 170-pound champion before jumping up to 185 pounds. I thought he's a great matchup. Looking at Leon Edwards as champ, I think Khamzat's got such a serious edge in the grappling. Obviously, last time he tried to fight at welterweight was way off, missing weight by like 9 pounds, now moving up to 185 pounds, a division he's fought at before, but never against somebody to the level of Jared Cannonier. So the Usman fight is off. Khamzat's trying to bait Usman to coming to 85. Usman says, no, let's do it at 170. The UFC is like, no way to the catch weight, and it seems that the UFC goes another direction. We now have Cannonier versus Khamzat Chimaev. When you look at Khamzat Chimaev's past couple of wins, you think of his most recent one, which was a weird short notice flip. It was originally supposed to be against Nate Diaz, and then, night before the fight, they switch it to Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland got ran over. It was a Darce choke in 2 minutes. Khamzat kind of faked a glove touch and then was all over a takedown. And we knew when Khamzat gets a Kevin Holland to the floor, Holland has no chance of getting back up. That was an obvious fight that was going to go Khamzat's way. But before that fight, he had his toughest test of his entire career. He went to war with Gilbert Burns. Now, to be fair, that was the first time that he was fighting in front of a big UFC crowd at a massive event. It was UFC 273. Gilbert Burns was able to hurt him badly in that fight. And I do think a lot of people are going to look to that fight and then compare this matchup with Jared Cannonier. But there's definitely some serious differences with the style. Before that, he destroyed Leach, and then his most recent fight at an official 185-pound weight class was all the way back in 2020 when he one-punch KO'd Gerald Meerschaert, which is not a huge win, ultimately. Let's look, though, at Jared Cannonier, his opponent. A guy who, the Killer Gorilla, is coming off of a beating. He destroyed Marvin Vettori and looked better than he ever has before at nearly 40. I mean, what is he now, 39? And he looked faster than ever, more accurate than ever, and more dangerous than ever. Obviously, Marvin Vettori does not have the wrestling accolades nor the hype and potential of a Khamzat Chimaev. Before that fight, it was a split decision with Sean Strickland, which a lot of people, even including me, felt it really could have went Sean Strickland's way. And then the one before that, he lost Israel Adesanya and was super low output and was unimpressive, losing pretty much every moment of that fight. So now it's the Khamzat Chimaev versus Jared Cannonier fight. And I think about the styles here between these two guys. Obviously, you have a grappler versus a striker. With Khamzat Chimaev, I would consider him a menacing wrestler. Ultimately, at 185 pounds, I do still have some questions about how he will be able to take big punches by somebody like a Jared Cannonier, but we can say for certain he has a massive advantage in the grappling and specifically the wrestling as well. Now, when he does get on top of his opponents, he's a pure finisher, ferocious ground and pound, and has very, very, very good chokes. Little bit of a concern with Khamzat, though. He does go a little bit wild. When his fight with Gilbert Burns was over, there were some questions about his game. He fought maybe a little bit, I would even say, immature in that matchup, looking so much for the knockout, not respecting the foe on the opposite side in Gilbert Burns. But I will expect Khamzat Chimaev has made improvements not only to his technical game, but to the mental side. I think he can kind of tune it back and chill a little bit here, be more patient with his approach. Obviously, his coach was all over him about going way too hard for a finish in a fight that if he would have fought more smartly, I think he would have cleanly dominated for 3 rounds. But he wanted wanted the knockout. He wanted to sleep Gilbert Burns in the first round, and that almost cost him the fight. You look at Jared Cannonier, like I've said, he's looking more dangerous than ever. He's a ferocious striker, extremely explosive, and he does have experience way up in weight classes. He is a former heavyweight. Khamzat is a former welterweight. So that's something that's very interesting to note. Super scary power on the Cannonier side. I promise you, he could sleep Khamzat if he landed the perfect punch. But it's about, can he land the perfect punch? That's a lot easier said than done. I expect Khamzat Chimaev to bring to this fight a very chain wrestling style attack. He's going to look to get close to Jared Cannonier, clasp the hands together, back him up against the cage, and wear on him. I don't think he's blindly shooting double legs in the center of the cage. I think he's using a bit of striking to back Cannonier up, get him towards the cage, clinch him, wear on him there, fatigue him, and then look to take the back. I do think Khamzat Chimaev is just too much of a relentless wrestler that I can say Jared Cannonier is guaranteed to be on his back in this fight here, or even his back taken. So then you have to wonder, how does he fare when he's on the ground with someone who's as much of a monster as Khamzat Chimaev there? It's not going to be well. My early prediction for this fight is going to be Khamzat Chimaev to strangle him in the second round. We're going Chimaev by submission. It just makes a lot of sense to me here. He's going to continue to pressure. Even if Cannonier gets back up, it's going to take so much energy to get back up to his feet, and then he's going to be dragged down again. He's going to get beat on, war on, and he's going to get tapped out. I do believe rear naked choke is live. I think also an arm triangle could be live. Potentially even ground and pound, but I'm feeling good about that second round submission for him. Khamzat wins this fight against a really scary contender in Jared Cannonier, and I'm telling you, the hype that was on Khamzat early on, that has slightly dwindled down. You guys know that I was Mr. Khamzat Chimaev since his debut. Did I lose a bit of faith in him? A little bit after the Burns fight. But I'm building that faith back up, and I'm recognizing that we can't judge a man from one matchup where he made, I think, some mental mistakes in that fight as opposed to just the physical side. Burns had such a tricky jiu-jitsu game that you are at risk of getting armbarred if you're on top of him. There is zero threat from the back by Jared Cannonier. Cannonier's only way to win this fight is the striking. And obviously, Khamzat Chimaev knows this. His team is going to be all over it. I don't see Khamzat Chimaev getting caught up in a striking match in a war. He's going to have Cannonier where he wants him, and he will strangle him. Then winning this fight against Jared Cannonier at 185, now Khamzat is the real contender, and the UFC's dreaming. They're salivating at the idea of Khamzat Chimaev in a world title fight, and they obviously would love it to be Khamzat Chimaev versus Israel Adesanya. If you watched my video earlier today, though, I talked about Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya, and I gave my early prediction for that. I'll link it up in the description, so if you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. And you guys that watch that know I picked DDP, Dricus du Plessis, to pull off a massive upset against Israel Adesanya. I still stand by that. I believe that he is the man to beat Adesanya. So then it kind of fucks the title picture, because now the UFC dreaming of a Chimaev versus Israel Adesanya pay-per-view super fight is no more. Obviously, if Dricus du Plessis beats Adesanya, they have to do a rematch. So even Khamzat Chimaev winning this fight, he's still some time away from a world title fight unless Adesanya does get past du Plessis, which I think is going to be extremely difficult for him to do. But just for the sake of this video, let's say he does beat Dricus du Plessis, being Israel Adesanya, and Khamzat Chimaev is able to beat Jared Cannonier. You are looking at one of the biggest fights in a long time in the middleweight division ever. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Dricus is going to put a monkey wrench in all the UFC's plans, and they'll be booking a rematch between DDP and Israel Adesanya, and Khamzat is now going to be forced to wait on the sidelines. He's calling for the title fight. He will be at the title fight. Then he will be wearing an Israel Adesanya shirt. He might have his nails painted just to support Israel Adesanya, but it's not going to happen that way. I think then Chimaev is on the sidelines. And a sideline Chimaev is going to probably have to fight again. Now, he could sit around and wait, but who knows how long? Is the UFC then Gonna book a Dricus du Plessis Adesanya 2 if DDP wins, and then let's say Adesanya beats him in the rematch and they immediately book Khamzat. They're not gonna give Dricus another fight against him, kind of like they, forced Alex Pereira, hey, go up to 205. We ain't doing the trilogy. We don't want to see it. I definitely could see the UFC pulling something like that. I feel like Chimaev should have found a way to stay at 170. I really wish he could have got his weight dialed in, because I truly believe to the core he defeats Colby Covington, he defeats Leon Edwards, he defeats Kamaru Usman. I have doubts about Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis, and I have doubts about Khamzat Chimaev versus Israel Adesanya. Now, if he's fighting someone else in the weight class, let's use an example, because the matchup that I could see for him that's still a big name while he's waiting would be Paulo Costa. I think he beats Paulo Costa. But damn, Chimaev is not in the A1 spot that he easily could have been in if he was at 170. If he got his weight dialed in, imagine we're talking about him at 170 fighting Usman. In the same fight card, let's say UFC 294, it was Usman versus Chimaev. And then Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards is also in the works. He's right there. He's getting the next title shot. But instead, weight issues, can't make 170 pounds anymore, which is disappointing. Obviously, maybe it was really that hard on his body. So I can scream and shout and cry about it. And I am upset because I wanted to see Khamzat as the 170 champ before moving up to 85. He's going to be waiting again. And the longer he waits, it's like it kills the Khamzat hype. When Khamzat was fighting all the time, he was probably the most hyped fighter since Conor McGregor on the come up. But now, with another layoff potentially incoming, even beating up Jared Cannonier, it's just not optimal for his stock. I do believe he's eventually going to be fighting for that world title. I will predict he'll be fighting for the world title in 2024. But damn, I can't tell you I'm certain he's going to win the belt against Dricus du Plessis or Israel Adesanya. Now, I feel like the easier matchup of the two is going to be Israel Adesanya, because there is a vast gap in the skill set on the ground compared to Khamzat and Izzy. With Dricus du Plessis, pound for pound, one of the strongest middleweights in the world right now, I could see him being a nightmare for Khamzat. That would be an awesome fight too. I mean, usually being a long-reigning champion would warrant an immediate rematch. So let's say Dricus du Plessis does get past Adesanya and the UFC decides, no, we're giving Khamzat the shot. Sorry, Izzy, you're waiting for the next one. But does that seem likely? Does that seem fair? That doesn't seem like the UFC's business model. So I do believe Khamzat Chimaev beats Jared Cannonier. I do believe he will be the rightful #1 contender. But Israel Adesanya is going to have to prove me wrong and beat Dricus du Plessis, which is a lot easier said than done. I'm so excited, though, to see Khamzat back in the cage. It's not what I want for him, but I'm still happy that I get to watch a Khamzat Chimaev fight. I get to maybe, shave the mustache, have my Dagestan/Chechnyan beard on for that matchup between Jared Cannonier and Khamzat Chimaev. Now, UFC 294, as I said in the beginning of the video, it's taking place October 21st, Saturday. It's going to be 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, so it's one of those early starts. There are no fights officially announced for that card. It's a little over 3 months out. I do believe Islam Makhachev is in the works for that card, but I'm hearing that Charlie Olives is not going to be ready for it. I'm also hearing that Volkanovski needs surgery, and he's talking about Ilia Topuria. He's not talking about Islam Makhachev. So ultimately, it would be the Gaethje-Poirier winner, which takes place at the end of this month of July. Recording this is July 10th, so that's, I believe, July 29th. They would have to come out with no damage, or at least minimal damage, because that's going to be a very fast turnaround from July to October. The end of it, damn, the UFC has just some unfortunate pay-per-view bookings. Like even 294, I'm like, hey, push it back to even, a week later, 2 weeks later, maybe instead, then you will be able to get Charles Oliveira in there to fight Islam Makhachev, or the winner of Gaethje-Poirier could be ready for it. Now, I'm making a lot of speculation with Gaethje-Poirier. It's one of those fights, though, where I'm anticipating both guys are going to take some serious damage. So now Islam Makhachev might be without an opponent. And looking at the UFC lightweight division outside of them, I mean, are they going to give Michael Chandler the shot? Because, hey, Conor McGregor, he's not doing the fight with you. You did us a favor, taking it, doing the Ultimate Fighter. Michael Chandler, you're getting the title now. You're getting a title shot. That would make no sense. A title shot off a win over Tony Ferguson? I don't think that's going to happen. So UFC 294 right now, I have no idea what it's going to look like. Besides, I know Khamzat Chimaev versus Jared Cannonier is going down. So at least that's a marquee matchup. That's a major fight. But damn sure, that is not a pay-per-view main event. They want Islam on the card. Islam will be ready. He'll be down to take on all comers. Can you imagine we somehow get Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan in the fight? That honestly I ain't asking for. The Silva fight between Tsarukyan and him was it was too close to warrant a title fight. Who knows with UFC 294 now? I like speculating and thinking of the maybes. The dream scenario for me, though, is going to be UFC 294. Main event, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira 2, and then obviously either co-main or featured bout, Jared Cannonier versus Khamzat Chimaev, and you fill it up with some more savages from all over the world, specifically some Muslim talent to really showcase there. 294 is going to be a good card. I know for a fact the UFC will figure it out. They're the best in the business. They do it great. But how timelines are looking, even for 293, Dricus is going to make such a quick turnaround to fight against Israel Adesanya. Their timing's a little bit off. They need to do better at these #1 contender fights, booking, and then their pay-per-views. I don't know. I feel like we might run into some trouble. We got some guys that have to be willing to step up with less time, but ultimately they're the most badass people on the planet. We'll find some comers who are ready to throw down. I hope you guys enjoyed this early prediction and reaction video to Khamzat Chimaev versus Jared Cannonier. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Am I on the Khamzat hype train and I'm blindsided because Jared Cannonier is just going to be too powerful? Do you think the middleweight division is not where Khamzat's going to shine? Or do you see what I'm saying? That we know if Jared Cannonier is going to be on his back, he's going to offer zero threat to Khamzat Chimaev, and you agree with me. So definitely let me know your prediction for that fight in the comments. Also, let me know what you think is going to happen with UFC 294. Who do you think Islam Makhachev is fighting next? Because that right there is all speculation at this point. We have no clue. Hoping it's Charlie O, but honestly, I would rather not see Charles Oliveira be forced into that fight when he's not ready. I want a 100% Charles Oliveira in his rematch with Islam Makhachev, not an Oliveira who's willing to take the fight, but with some serious wear and tear. We shall find out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As I've said, I'm bringing the news reactions. I'm dropping the heat consistently, so stay tuned for it. Make sure you smash the likes and subscribe. If you really enjoy the news content, make sure you turn those post notifications on and put them to all so that algorithm pushes them your way. Much love, my people. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.